The Cavs might need a little bit of a cure. They got smoked in the fourth quarter against the Raptors. Game was close. They let a guy I have never seen in my life, Mr. Battle. Only Battle I know is John Battle, the old school John Battle for the Cavs and the Hawks. But I mean, I thought Toronto guys played with desperation. They played like a team that was down 2-0, and I think we kind of knew it going into it. Jason, your thoughts on how everything really went down, and was this a surprising outcome to you?
No, only the score, that they let it get out of hand at the end. Other than that, no. I said before, during the draft show last night, I thought last night was the game they're going to lose. I thought it'd be Cavs in 5. I still think it's Cavs in 5. I don't think there's any reason to panic. Toronto was fighting for their lives last night. They did what they needed to do. Mike and I said throughout the series, the way Toronto wins, play fast, force turnovers, create extra possessions, and that's exactly what they did last night. And Cavs missed some shots, and the Raptors played well at home. I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I think they'll win Game 4 and close it out in Game 5 at home.
It was one. It was a bad one. It was a predictably bad one. So you move forward Sunday at 1 and try to win this game. When has a Cleveland team ever failed on a Sunday at 1?
Sunday at 1.
Yeah.
That's their sweet spot.
Yeah, right?
I think, you gave up too many threes. Were they due? Is that the Cavs' Achilles heel? Was it a bad James Harden game? Mm-hmm. Sure, you worry about that. But the Cavs are the better team here. The Cavs now get the extra day to refocus, extra reason to refocus. Series should be over by middle of next week.
Yeah, I like what you said, refocus, because I like to have guys understand, hey, listen, we are a better team, but you can get punched in the mouth. I actually prefer, and I would take sweeps, but I can see some good happening in that you got beat in that fashion, because Kenny can come in and say, look, guys, I told you, we didn't rebound the ball well enough. We didn't meet them physically, and they put pressure on us, 20-some odd turnovers. And then we missed every shot that was a clutch shot. We missed a lot of open looks. So if you don't bring the effort and you don't close out and you don't do some of those things, you could get beat by this team. RJ Barrett, I think, brought a lot of energy. Scottie Barnes was a monster yesterday. And so what you need is you need that Evan Mobley to show up. You need that Mobley that got you 25, and you need James Harden and Donovan Mitchell to play better. I thought both of those guys had subpar games, turnovers a lot. So to me, I do believe that the Cavs, if they win Game 4, I believe I'm picking them to win Game 4. This series should be over sometime, like you said, next week if they get their mind together.
The only concern going forward is this is what happens when the Cavs they are so reliant on the 3-point shot. This is what happens when shots aren't falling. And James and Donovan last night combined were 4-17 from 3. Harden had 8 turnovers. If you want to add Mobley in there, they were, I think, 4-21 from 3 between the 3 of those guys. So, I mean, obviously you're going to focus more on Donovan and James when you talk 3-point shooting. When you go 4-17 and turn the ball over 11 times between you, this is what's going to happen. So going forward, when they're playing better competition, do they play teams that can force turnovers, create turnovers, and also do a better job of making shots at the other end? Toronto did last night. I don't think that's sustainable for them. But when the Cavs are so dependent and so reliant on 3-point shots, what do you have when that shot's not falling? And that's it's what we've said this entire series. If they're not making shots, that's how they're beatable. Well, I don't think Toronto can beat them 4 times, but I think some of those teams ahead of them, they can if the Cavs aren't making shots. So that's more of the concern.
I think Scottie Barnes, good player, great player. I think that's a fair debate. Last night he was great.
Yeah.
He's the greatest for part of it. So you're going to have those nights. And you're right. Like the Cavs are going to have to get better, but this is a part of the process. And it was Toronto's Super Bowl. They won it.
Jason, you bring up a really good point. I do think because the Toronto Raptors are a lesser version of the better teams that they'll face. Like if they place Detroit can physically lock you down. They play tough defense, and they can grind the pace to a halt. So if you can't hit shots, that gives them an opportunity to have timely baskets by Cade and some of those guys, and Duren will be on the offensive board. We already know what it is with Boston. Boston can also cover you with those 2 athletic wings in Tatum and Brown, and they still got guys like Pritchard and Hauser and White that can hit threes. Vujacic can hit through. So they can come at you in waves with it and knock down 3, 4, 5 shots in a row, and you're going to be forced to be able to match that level of shot making. And when the Cavs don't do that, they're vulnerable, McNuggets.
So Toronto did make a really smart adjustment last night, and I do feel a little bad during our live stream. We tried to do both at the same. It's hard to watch two things at the same time. So I went back and I kind of locked into the Cavs this morning. I rewatched the game. Toronto said, "You are not going to get to the paint. You are not going to get to the paint, and if you step back and make threes in our drop coverage and over the fact that we are putting 4 guys in the paint at all times, then so be it." But they missed a ton of wide-open looks. You can see some of these here in this montage. These are all considered open by NBA.com tracking data. They both made, and by both I mean Toronto and Cleveland, 14 threes. The difference, Cleveland took 45 of them. Toronto took 23. When you make the same amount of threes and one team takes 22 fewer threes, that team's more likely than not going to win. And last night, Jamison Battle, for example, was a better wide-open three-point shooter than Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. Is that sustainable? I'm not sure. Toronto's strategy of completely packing the paint and forcing guys to kick out and make others make threes to beat them worked. But if the Cleveland has a even halfway decent shooting night, this game is a completely different outcome. I hate simplifying it sometimes to a make-or-miss league, but last night was a prime example of what a make-or-miss league means and how it can translate to an outcome of a game that doesn't look very close, that in theory should have been based on the shot quality from both teams. Also, one other thing, James Harden, not good last night, 8 turnovers. He was way too more of a, you talked about him being a guy who could score but also facilitate.
Yeah.
I thought he leaned way too much into the scoring aspect of his game last night. Part of the reason he had to do it, Donovan wasn't aggressive that much at all.
No,
and the Cavs need a more aggressive Donovan Mitchell, whether it's just to get past Toronto, but more specifically in the later rounds. They can't have that version of Donovan if they're going to go on a deep playoff run.
Yeah, it's one of those things where at the time, I go back and always, compare it to 2016 and some of those other Cavs teams. The really cool thing about the Cavs at that point in time, they had played long enough together to understand, okay, what they needed. So some games LeBron would come out and get other people involved. And in some games, him and Kyrie was just super aggressive from the jump. And they kind of already knew like what type of time where they was on, like what game plan that they needed to like implement. And so I think in this sense, playoff basketball is a little different. I think they did really well in figuring out what they needed from each other in the regular season, but in the playoffs, when adjustments has happened like that from game to game, I think both of them got kind of caught in I guess on opposite ends of the spectrum. Like, they really didn't. It was the first time I didn't really think they complimented each other. It just wasn't a compliment there. It was one guy was kind of laying off.
They went my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, as opposed to playing off each other.
And it was like the first time I had saw that since he got here. So that's a thing. Figuring it out in the postseason, Zach, is a thing. And hopefully they're more cohesive in Game 4. But I do like this. I do like the fact that in the playoffs, they're going to go back and they're going to watch the film. And I think the biggest jump people will have is when you take an L like that and get beat by 20-something, guys will be dialed in a little bit more into what the adjustments are.
No doubt. First quarter Sunday, you want to see Donovan much more aggressive. Right? That doesn't mean he has to have 15 in the first quarter.
Right.
But he's got to be more assertive than he was.
Yeah.
When you look at it real quick, and we'll get back to the draft, but if Toronto wants to continue to pack the paint and force the guards, mainly Donovan and James, to be more aggressive, how often are you going to see a night where James Harden and Donovan Mitchell combined to score 33 points, both shoot, they combined to shoot 4 of 17 from 3. Donovan didn't attempt a single free throw in the game. And overall, those two were, I hate to say lackluster, but you're not going to win many playoff games, especially against a desperate team when your two best players, the two engines of your offense, combined to shoot 12 of 29, 4 of 17 from 3, and have way more turnovers than assists. Those two combined, 11 turnovers to 7 assists. That just ain't going to cut it.
You know what, McNuggets, to me, I kind of watched and I went back and kind of watched the highlights to kind of like, because we was doing the draft stuff and I was like, man, let me go back and check it out. For me, it just seems as if the one of the trade-offs with Mitchell and Harden is, yes, Harden controls the pace and he's going to have the basketball making the right decision. But it just doesn't seem like the Cavs get a lot of easy, fast break points. It just doesn't seem like they get a lot of transition buckets where it's a turnover and they get easy buckets. It seems like everything that they have comes within at the half court sets, and when the shot clock is moving down. That part of that is by playing. I mean, Harden has the ball and they're running pick and roll, trying to figure out what options he has. But Toronto got a lot of fast break points by turnovers, and you're to the other rim, turnovers to the rim, and it's easier to do that if you can. When you're taking the ball out the rim because you're missing, it's kind of hard to start transition. So maybe the Cavs could get some more action and some easier buckets, not so that you don't have to set up against a rough defense and see Scottie Barnes in the middle of the paint every possession.
Yeah, the Cavs had 20 turnovers. Toronto did have 22 points off turnovers, but when you have 20 turnovers and you only give up 22 points off those, it's actually not that bad. End of the day, Toronto had a really good shooting night. They shot 20 of 31 from mid-range in the game. 20 of 31 from mid-range.
Long
Tough thing to repeat, but you got to give them credit. They made those shots, and that is why it is 2-1.